everyone, and welcome back to the Awards Gambit. Today I'm going to be reviewing the film Past Lives, written and directed by Celine Song. This is my first film review, so please let me know your thoughts in the comments, like the video, subscribe to my channel. I'm super excited to be doing these videos for you guys. So, why don't we get started on the film review? So I just want to talk a little bit about the basic plot for those of you who may not have heard of this movie. It's about two childhood friends who reconnect after 20 plus years of not having seen each other. So the way the movie is set up is at first in the beginning they show some scenes from their childhood. The two characters' names are Nora and Hae Sung. And so it just kind of shows their friendship, the foundation of their friendship. And then Nora's family ends up immigrating to Canada. And so that's sort of the end of their friendship in that stage of their life. And then the film sort of cuts to 12 years later. Hae Sung is still in South Korea, and Nora is in New York City. Seems like she's like maybe early 20s, like in her, it looks like she's in like either a college dorm or like a first year out of college apartment sort of thing. So she is a writer in New York City. And I guess this is around the time that Facebook started becoming popular. So she's on Facebook now, and she's talking to her mom on the phone, and she sees that Hae Sung is trying to reach her on Facebook. And the reason it's hard for him to find her on Facebook is because she gave herself an American name when she immigrated to North America. So she had a different name in Korea, and he didn't know that she changed her name. But anyway, so eventually they do connect on Facebook and they talk, and they talk on like FaceTime or Skype or something. And so they're sort of like reconnecting, rekindling their friendship. They start like talking on this media like almost every single day. And so they're like just like friends, but there's also sort of this romantic aspect to it. Eventually, this communication stops because she didn't want to do a relationship over video calls. And he was in Korea and she was in New York City, and neither of them could really make the long distance work. So they stopped there. And then what happens is Nora meets another guy who she's working with. And then they cut to another 12 years later. And you find out that they are married. They've been married for a long time. And Hae Sung is traveling to New York City. So that's how they reconnect for the first time in person in 24 years. And so the whole movie is just kind of like evaluating what their relationship is after so long and what they mean to each other. And it's like they have this relationship where it's like they only see each other every like 12 years, and it's really fascinating. I personally really enjoyed the movie. Normally those types of movies aren't my favorite. I'm more into like thrillers and like comedic thrillers and satires, so this movie isn't sort of like my top choice, but I checked it out the other night and I really enjoyed it. And I will say that a lot of this movie is in Korean, but they have subtitles. But it's like, I feel like it's like probably 50-50, half in English, half in Korean. So there are a few things that I really liked about this film that I want to talk about. One of them is the cinematography. I felt like there were a lot of really cool camera angles incorporated into this film. There's a scene in which they are on the subway in New York City, and just the way that the camera captures their emotions and like what they're doing on the subway train, like from an external point of view, it's just really cool. The cinematography is so well done. There's a lot of cool like close-ups of their faces, and just the way the camera captures all of their emotions. It's just, I really like that aspect of it. Another aspect of the film that I liked was the production design. From their childhood in Korea, where they grew up, to where they lived 12 years later, I really liked Nora's. Like I said, Nora had this like really small apartment in New York City, and it's all very simple. It's basic, but it really shows like the real lives of these people. It all just came together really well, and I really enjoyed it. Another really good part about the movie was the writing. I felt like the screenplay was very well written. A lot of really heavy, deep, emotional conversations between the characters, especially Nora and Hae Sung. And honestly, that's part of what made the whole film very watchable was the very intricate and deep dialogue. Every time the characters talked, you were just mesmerized by what they were saying and how they were saying it. But yeah, all the dialogue between all the characters were was really good. And the last aspect of the film that I really enjoyed that I want to talk about is the acting. The acting was so incredible. The woman who plays Nora is Greta Lee. For those of you who aren't familiar with her, she's feel like she's kind of up and coming. She's been in quite a few things recently. She was in The Morning Show season 2. She was in Russian Doll. The first thing I ever saw her in was the movie Sisters. For those of you who've seen the movie with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, she plays one of the nail technicians that works at the salon, Haewon, and she comes to their party that they have, and it's she was so funny in that movie. I really like Greta Lee, and in this film, Past Lives, she just delivers everything. It seems very subtle, but at the same time very nuanced. Like she shows all of her emotions on camera. You just fall in love with her and her character in the movie, and her on-screen chemistry with both Hae Sung, her childhood friend, and her husband Arthur. It's she's just so great, and I'm really excited to hear the reviews about her in this movie, and I'm sure this movie will help her career. I just want to mention the two other main actors in the film. Teo Yu, who plays Hae Sung, did an excellent job, and John Magaro played Nora's husband Arthur. And all three of them were great. They all had great chemistry with each other, and it's a really great triangulation of characters, the three of them. Another thing in general that I liked about this movie, not a specific thing, but what I enjoyed about this movie is that it was it wasn't like any sort of movie I had ever seen before. Like you'd think based on you because it's a story about like a man and a woman and it's like their childhood friends and there might be some romantic relationship going on between them. You go into them thinking sort of like a rom-com but like drama. So what I liked about that is that when you're watching it, you're kind of expecting there to be those like rom-com cliches where like they like run to each other and like all the cliches you can think of in like a rom-com, classic rom-com. But they didn't have any of that. It was just like pure humans being humans and having conversations and nothing like that. And so for that reason, I really liked that. Like I was pleasantly surprised by how much it wasn't like a traditional love story. That's like the number one thing that I noted when I left the movie theater. And something else about the movie that I enjoyed was that although it's an independent film, it was very slow and like the dialogue was slow. There wasn't a lot happening at once. But it sort of worked. The runtime was under 2 hours, and because like of the way the brilliant actors acted in the film, it didn't feel like it was long at all. Like I was just sort of wanting to know more about what was going to happen, and I wasn't like just like about to fall asleep. I was intrigued and invested the whole time. Some of the things that weren't my favorite about this movie was, like I said, it wasn't a like fast-paced thriller, and those are the movies I tend to gravitate towards. So there were parts where there were a few parts that I was just sort of like, all right, like what's supposed to be happening here. A lot of really long, drawn out conversations. And although, like I said before, the screenplay was very well written and the characters did a really good job of, putting all their emotions and putting everything into these conversations, and they came together well. You'll see sometimes in these drama films that the dialogue, in my opinion at least, can just be very like over dramatic. Like I just don't think people don't talk in real life like this. I'm very critical of that in any sort of dramatic movie or television show. I felt, although overall I did enjoy the screenplay and the dialogue and the conversations, just some of them were like a little bit too over dramatic and long for me. I also want to talk about this film's Oscar chances. So it's kind of hard to say now because a lot of the other movies that are coming out later this year haven't screened and we don't know how they're going to be. But for now, I would say this movie has a great chance of cracking into the Oscars. I think you can definitely count on it to make the Best Picture field of 10. And you can also count on, I'm sure Greta Lee will get in for Best Actress. She was so good. I'm sure she'll be in that nomination field, and very deservedly so. And maybe the other two actors, T.O.U. and John McGarl, will get in too. It would be wonderful to see them in. They would all three of them be first-time nominees, so that'd be cool. I also think that it will definitely get in for original screenplay. I think it might even be in first place at this point in the race. I know we're still far out, but I think it might be a contender to win Best Original Screenplay for Celine Song. And I would love to see it get into Best Director. The direction of the film was also great, and I think Celine Song might be the best bet of getting a female into Best Director. And I mean, as much as I would like to see this film get in for production design and cinematography, like I mentioned before, it might be hard considering it's not very showy and there's a lot more movies that are coming out later this year, like Dune Part 2 and Oppenheimer, that are much more showier, and movies like that will have a leg up to Past Lives. But I mean, it's definitely possible for it to get into those categories. So I just want to give this movie an overall rating. I would give this movie an 8.8 out of 10 for all the reasons I said above. It was mostly amazing, really enjoyed it, just like a few things that weren't for me personally, but I would highly recommend that everyone watch this movie, Past Lives. It is in theaters now. Go check it out and let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned later this week. I'm going to be putting out a video about the Emmy nominations for the limited series, anthology series, or television movie categories ahead of next week. Nominations come out July 12th. So we got some super exciting things ahead. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first movie review on the Awards Gambit. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you soon. Bye.